Hi, everybody. It's the show with Ron. I'm Ron, and what we do here is we add context and commentary to the news. And that's because you see your Google search results. It's filled with garbage. The first page is all sponsored results. They're not even showing you what you searched for. And when the results do come, they're all from big giant corporate sites for pages and pages. Hard to find unique information. And then you've got all the news outlets out there that are starting to use AI, and I guarantee this is going to get bigger because, businesses are great, but you just don't want to have to employ those pesky people and all the rights that they have. So the AI is a plagiarism engine that takes all the existing stuff on the internet without permission, and it cobbles it together, and you get a mush of regurgitated stuff. We also have the artificial voices that are coming online with Biden, those robocalls with the fake Biden voice telling people not to vote. So it's more important than ever to understand what's in the news, what it means for us, what's really behind it. And so here I used Drudge because this was an old-timey, by now, right-wing aggregator of headlines. But a lot of news outlets, especially in the U.S., use this because it pointed out interesting stories. So let's just start to take a look at some of the stuff today. We have here the rising U.S. oil production frustrates OPEC cuts. So as far back as in, I believe, Obama's administration, the U.S., partially through the magic of fracking, the U.S. has become the world's leading oil producer. And this means many things, but what it means for someone who's kind of a foreign policy wonk like myself, it has implications for our connection in the Middle East. So like during Obama's administration, Russia kind of got involved in Syria, and the U.S. kind of stood back from issues that were happening there. And yeah, you could criticize the Obama administration for that, but by the same token, what's going to happen in U.S. foreign policy is the Middle East is going to become less important and less important to put our men, our money there, on the line to sacrifice. The terrible, awful comparison is, in Africa, this century, we've had huge killings of people, terrible civil wars, lots of fighting and disruption. You hardly even hear those in the international English language press. I know France is always very involved there for complicated reasons, but there's a whole bunch of chaos in Africa, and the U.S. is not pouring the billions of dollars into there. But they are in the Middle East because it has implications for us and our allies and keeping the trade lines open there through the Red Sea. But the cynical dream is that in the future, the Middle East will be like Africa. They can fight and kill all they want, and the major countries will not go in there and get involved in those conflicts. And like it or not, or as awful as that sounds, that is what is slowly happening. And this is one of the situations where, Israel is trying to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in the way it's handling the situation in the Gaza Strip with the battle there. They're losing the public perception that they're in the right, despite what happened to it and what happened to them and how this conflict started with the hostage taking. And you do see more in the U.S. public for various reasons. Certainly there's a lot of anti-Israel propaganda, anti-Jewish propaganda even, but there will be a less and less desire of the United States to stake its claim and have to depend on the allies like Israel in there in the Middle East to do its bidding and to support it. So this is an aspect that we hear news about that is indicating a change in the world. And like I say, it's been happening almost 10 years now since the Obama administration. Less interest in staking our claim in that area. More stuff. If you're a person, I try to be neutral here. So I'd say if you're a person who really wants Trump to lose, I don't know if anyone really wants Biden to win, but it's more kind of opposing Trump because Trump is sort of a wild man, a wild card. It's not sure what his intent is at this point. It would be a mistake for the people who oppose Trump to depend on this sort of sarcastic articles or articles that are not talking about the issues. We know what the young people are kind of deserting Biden or thought to be deserting Biden. We know there are big issues. There's inflation and immigration, homelessness, the cost of housing, and we know the media has stepped up on Biden's behalf to say, oh, everything's fine. The economy is great. It's called the vibe economy. They're using this term with one voice. Suddenly the media has this. It's not that people are paying too much for their eggs and a six-pack of Coke at the store. It's a vibe economy. They're just kind of mistaken. They're getting in this vibe. They don't realize how great they have it. Those are all mistakes, and these are all dangers for the Biden campaign, and especially if they forego issue-based, addressing the issues, and they depend on this sort of ridiculing him. We saw what happened when Trump ran against Hillary Clinton. The campaign against him in the media was almost all scoffing and joking about what a fool he was. He had to spend his own money on his own campaign and blah, blah, blah. So this is, and again, a long time ago, Biden was considered a right-winger, and the first time, not Biden, Drudge Report, I don't know, Drudge or whoever's behind this site now, sort of was seen as giving Donald Trump a free pass in the 2016 race against Hillary Clinton, because certainly Trump doesn't fit in with most of the values that the Republican side at least says they have. He's a crazy womanizer, and if anybody with his characteristics, all of them, would have been on the Democrat side, there's no way he could have won, and the right would have been nuts about him all the time, talking him down. So in that first election, the Drudge Report was criticized for maybe not highlighting a lot of negative articles about Trump. But you see this time, they're really going in on Biden, and the Drudge Report certainly also highlighted a lot of articles in the, in the last few months. If you watch this channel, we've been watching how the media and certainly behind the scenes Republicans have tried to say, well, could we get a different guy to win the primaries? Could we get DeSantis? No, he failed. Could we get Haley? No, she hasn't done well so far. So, and Drudge has highlighted those kind of articles as well to try to see if you could create a groundswell for somebody other than Trump, but hasn't worked. We have the situation in Iran. This is, certainly Iran was probably behind what happened with Hamas and Israel, and they're certainly behind what's happened with the Houthi rebels down there in Yemen. They're trying to widen the war. And so it's probably not likely that Biden will strike back directly on Iran. And this is after, in Jordan, apparently some rockets came over and killed some U.S. soldiers there. So and Biden is under pressure to strike back on that issue, but that would give Iran exactly what they want, to widen the war. That would give Russia what they want. That would probably give China. Anybody who wants to make a territorial move that the U.S. would usually stand up against, they can see that the U.S. public is not that interested in engaging in more and more foreign conflicts. And after all, the media, the liberal media, certainly during the first 8 or so years of this century during the George W. Bush administration, they hit home about wars are bad, innocent women and children die in wars, and the president is a war criminal, and he's going to be pulled before the Hague. But it's a little different subject when it's the other party in power, the Democrats, so they went a little easier on Obama when he invaded Libya for completely a war that you could have had or you didn't have. He had the chance, he took it. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but yeah, the war in Libya was a disaster on par with what happened in Iraq or Afghanistan. So the rest of the world sees that, and they see the U.S.'s large debt as well, and they see how the Congress is not willing to keep pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into a war in Russia either. So Biden's in a difficult spot to respond to this without expanding the war. MAGA nuts. Here's this. Trump supporters accused Taylor Swift of plotting to rig Super Bowl and American election. I'm sure you've heard stuff about this. This all ties into stuff I said at the very beginning of this video, where we're being flooded with crazy things, both AI, false things, and stuff like this, where people, I think, are incentivized by social media to say the most crazy and outrageous things, both for clicks, and they like to see the outrage of the other side when they say it. And both the Republicans and Democrats do this. So this is another situation where this whole matrix of polarized politics and a desire to get clicks, to say anything to keep that social media presence up is causing people to become more extreme in the crazy things they say. And then they say they believe it, so the other side will go crazy. And you wonder where this will lead, how you will calm people down, especially when, we have this social media. You've seen on YouTube all the crazy clickbait thumbnails that say, Disney destroyed by the. It's a lot of really extreme stuff out there that. This is why I have this channel, that we need to be aware of what's happening in the media, in the world, and in the internet, which has sort of become the media, the mass media now. Let's see what else we have here. Heard the other day of, Elon Musk's $56 billion salary. That would be great. But it's been held up by the courts. We have this there are other articles about this. Of course, Vanity Fair is essentially a left-leaning outlet that publishes puff pieces, probably paid puff pieces that are essentially press releases. Inside Apple Park, the tech giant CEO talks about the genesis of a mind-blowing new device. A-list directors already on board. My experience was religious. Now, just the other day, if you look at the other articles, they're saying why this Apple Vision Pro is a privacy nightmare. We have this thing maybe linked with AI, and you're able to identify all the people around you all the time and record what they're doing. And this certainly, could this catch on? Do people want to live like this? I know those early versions of, the virtual reality glasses have all failed. I'm not. What's it going to be like to live in that world with Apple Vision Pro? Well, you won't find it out from Vanity Fair because that's just a puff piece. Florida bill make device tracking without a consent a felony. I know a lot of younger people, I had friends, family write in that I'm supposed to be this old person who's all about deregulation, but I know I am talking about there should be the regulation of the use of content to create AI without people's permission. You know, they can't just scrape everything off the web and stuff like this, where the technology's gotten way ahead of the laws, and they need to really shut down this plague of tracking devices that people are using to track each other secretly. But again, the younger people I know say, we don't want more regulation. So somehow the younger people today seem to be both more liberal and somehow more Republican in at least saying they don't want more regulation and laws. They want more liberty and freedom, while at the same time being quite progressive. A generalization, but every time has its cohort of people who are the preponderance of the generation, and I think that describes today's generation. This is a site that came up occasionally. It was supposed to be a center site with the news, and the guy put his $50 million into it. It's already failing. I'm not sure who in this day and age would think something like that would work. Of course, they're getting rid of all the reporters for AI people in the next few years. It's going to happen. Another fascinating thing, you know, this goes back to the WikiLeaks thing. I guess probably not quite 20 years ago, but this is just recently, some of these hacking tools that were leaked. I'm always of two minds on this. On one side, you want to know what the government is capable of in terms of surveillance. But then on the other hand, you realize that a lot of the people they're surveilling, especially terrorists, probably they need to be surveilling these people, and the technology to do it needs to be secret. So here's a guy who leaked a lot of software the government had, and he's got in trouble for it. And I think it's easy to say, I don't want to have any secrets, but again, I may sound like an old man, but we need some of that secretly to spy on terrorists and foreign governments such as Iran, who would like to do as much damage to other countries as they possibly can, and they don't need to know that we're able to do it or how we do it. Larry Page buys Fifth Island. I don't know why this is compelling, but I think to me, like a childhood dream when I was a kid, you'd say, oh, it'd be fun to own an island. And yeah, I guess I'll never know what that's like. I can barely visit one. I suppose we just should mention fake recording of a candidate saying he'd rigged the election went viral. Experts say it's only the beginning. You know, again, you can only imagine where this will lead. Already people have very little trust in the media. It's become so biased, very openly so in the age of Trump, in one way or on to either side. And here we have, I think some of this, you know, politicians do not want to come out and start screaming and shouting for lots of regulation, even when it's obvious it's needed. So you let all this stuff build up. You let a bunch of outrages build up, maybe elections they're messed up because of this. Then the people will shout for it, and then you have cover as a candidate to bravely go forward and propose legislation. And one more thing to worry about. Now they've got armies of monkeys. I think this is in Thailand, in Lopburi. Marauding monkeys, there we go. On top of everything, it's Planet of the Apes or monkeys. See, they're getting the women. They're going to have transportation soon. And this is, the reason why I try to laugh at the news. And I used to be a button-down businessman for many years, doing analyst work, doing all kinds of things I can't even say. But I grew my hair long, and I want to dress casually now, because when I look at the news and talk about the news, I don't want it to overwhelm me or anybody, because a lot of the news, a lot of what politics, a lot of the media wants you to do is get involved, stake your claim on it, go down swinging in someone else's fight. And maybe we need to step back, and that's what this context that I'm doing is supposed to be about. Murder trials, Belichick and the NFL. And I think that's all we have for today. As I've said several times, this is an exciting year. We have the situation in the world where there's a little cadre of countries that would like to get the U.S. involved in a lot of overseas fighting, because they know the U.S. public doesn't want to get involved. They know the U.S. is $34 trillion in debt. They know that anybody, even in Congress, that steps up to say we need to halt spending or let's shut down spending, the media with one voice calls them insane, radical, far-right persons. And, of course, a lot of those congressmen are that, and women. But what a weird time that we live in, that the only people who raise the alarm over such spending are some radical, crazy people, and the rest just say, never mind about it. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is this crazy election. We have Trump. He's being beset by all these legal trials, a really unprecedented situation. We have Biden, who does appear quite senile in his aspect. And I always have to explain that nobody is saying the number 81 is too large, too high to be president. That's what some of these news reports that are running cover for him say. Well, he's 81 and Trump's 77, and so that's not too far. So 81, that number is okay. No, people are saying, we see the clips, even though the media doesn't promote them. We see all the clips of Biden seeming a little too slow, perhaps even senile, and that's worrying. And is this the only person that the Democrats can put up against Trump, who we're told is a terrible, terrible danger? So who knows what could happen this year, but stick with me, and we'll follow all the news and give some context so it's not so crazy and scary. Young people find their dreams and failures in Bangkok, and then go on to the furthest places in search of something the modern world can no longer give. This is the story of There Are Still Unknown Places, my new novel on sale at Asia Books and on Kindle ebook. It's a tale for a new generation, disillusioned by the promises of the world, wanting to search for their destinies in far-off places. That is my latest novel. It does key into some of the ideas that I'm kind of add context to, or the way I add context. It's about disillusioned people, young people, foreigners, Thais in the country, people who see the world changing so quickly that it's difficult to grab a hold of it, and other young people who are disillusioned by the promises of the world and the kind of society that says everything is fine when they know it's not fine. But that book's available. I'd be happy if you bought it and read it. Another thing we do around here is we do this. This is an Art of War card, a playing deck of cards, and we look at a card every day to see if we can get some advice from this ancient Chinese guy. So this one says, eliminate your adversary's choices. Strategy, leave your adversary with no viable options or call your adversary's bluff. Basis, an adversary with no options cannot keep you guessing. So with all of this Art of War stuff, you're supposed to think about how you can apply it in your business life or your interpersonal relationships with others. So some are more easily adapted to that than others. Maybe, let's see, eliminate your adversary's choices. Again, we have a lot of adversaries in business. We have a lot of adversaries in our personal life, so to speak. And I guess the way you deal with them, sometimes you don't want to hit people head on or fight with everybody. A couple days ago we had one that said, defeat one person and the other people will kind of fall in line. So you got to, when you got to battle, you got to use something like this to your best advantage, because you can't fight everybody all at once. See, and that's what a lot of countries are thinking about the U.S. right now. Let's get the U.S. fighting everybody at once. So anyway, that's today's episode. And I try to do this. If there's enough news, I try to do it every day. Might be every other day. But you come back next time tomorrow, and we should have another one where we look at the headlines, give it a little background, and try to understand what's really going on. Bye-bye.